Hey guys, Shane here. So welcome to my Ardennes teamed build for 2019, as it is the 75th anniversary of Watch on the Rhine or Autumn Mist or the Battle of the Bulge. So even though we're a little bit late, as the operation began on the 16th of December, it's now the 18th. However, it is fitting for another date during the battle, and that is the fighting between the 12th SS and the troops of the 38th Infantry Regiment around the twin villages of Krinkelt and Russia. So we're going to be creating this photograph that you see in front of you. This is the wrecked and knocked out Panther 126 of the 1st Company, 12th Regiment, 12th SS. So there's a little bit of information and a bit of contradictory information about this tank. According to Stephen Zaloga, this is Panther 123, and then according to other sources, it is 126. We'll go back to that now in a little bit, and we'll blow up some of the other photographs to see what the third number is. So we're going to be creating this photograph as closely to the original. So we have the wrecked Panther with wounded crewman being escorted away by a US Army signals cameraman. This crewman being marched away is probably posed for the camera. However, it's still a very kind of interesting scene, and we're going to try to create a small diorama based on this. So we have our Panther G, which is one of the, I believe it's a late Panther G. However, it's got the rounded mantlet, so there's going to be a few little things we're going to have to do to it. So we're going to talk about the kit that we have in a few moments, but we're going to start looking at the features of this vehicle. So poor old Panther 123 or 126, depending on what you want to go for, had a bit of an interesting time outside Krinkelt and Rosrat on the morning of December 18th. Some people say this photograph was taken on December 17th. However, I'm going to go with Stephen Zaloga's Smashing Hitler's Panthers, which is a book solely about the 12th SS during this action. And he claims this photograph is from the 18th, which is probably taken from the official entry from the Army Signal Corps who took the photo. So we're going to go with the 18th rather than the 17th. However, you guys can dispute it if you wish in the comments. However, we're just going to go with that just for that's what the most trustworthy information seems to say. So this tank had a bit of an interesting time of it. So around about 8 a.m. or 0800 on the 18th, a 5 Panther column from the 1st and 3rd companies, I believe, of the 12th Regiment tried to punch into Krinkelt on their own. They had no infantry support. Their supporting Volksgrenadier, which I believe were from the 277 Volksgrenadier Division, were basically obliterated from focused US artillery fire and small arms fire. So these vehicles basically only went in with a few squads of Panzer Grenadiers that were hanging on to the rear decks of the vehicles until they got absolutely obliterated by .5 or 50 cal and small arm fire. So now they're in the middle of a village that is defended in depth by 3 battalions from the 38th Infantry Regiment of the 2nd US Army Division, as well as 2 companies from the 741st or 741 Tank Battalion, and almost the entirety of the 644th Tank Destroyer Battalion. So this is defense in depth. The infantry are armed with bazookas and 57mm anti-tank guns, as well as supported by M4 mediums and M10 tank destroyers. Within the close confines, the crews are forced to be buttoned up because they're taking extreme small arm fire, even 50 caliber fire, trying to suppress the crew, trying to knock out their periscopes. So there's massive confusion within the crew. Even the infantrymen start stampeding cattle in front of this unfortunate Panther here to try to prevent it from escaping. Now Panther 126 or 123, we're just going to keep calling it 126 from here on in, was the last vehicle in that 5 Panther column. So they basically watched the entire column ahead of them getting cut to pieces by point blank fire. So now we're going to start looking at some of the details. So the first thing I have marked here is we'll see that the fenders have been massively damaged. On the starboard side, they're completely folded away, gone, being torn apart by small arms fire or coming into contact with buildings in the village as it tried to career its way out of the village. We can also see that the Noctilite is missing its front cover here. If you just look on the port side here. Also, there seems to be a blemish. I don't know if that's a shell hit just below the ball gun mount on the bow. You can also see as well is that we have a partially open loader's hatch that we're going to have to recreate. So we're going to be using photo etch to recreate these. You can also see these small little lines just running in front of the road wheels there on the port side. They're actually telephone posts that we'll talk about more in a few minutes. They're from actual telephone cables. When this tank tried to flee, it took a hit on its turret. The turret began to traverse erratically, so either they had a jam within their mechanism where they lost control of the turret, or the gunner was injured, and then the turret jammed in the position as we see it now. And as it did so, it sideswiped a couple of telephone posts and dragged all of the power cables or the telephone cables with it. So now moving on to a few of the rear of the vehicle, so we can see that some of the shores and plates are damaged and hanging at a weird angle. You can also notice where its antenna has been snapped, so that also kind of gives you just the amount of fire this vehicle was taking. Also, we have a bit of rubble and masonry on the rear deck of the vehicle as it burns, as it did hit a few buildings. This is also probably from falling masonry from near misses. Also, the vehicle, we can't see any photos from the starboard side of the vehicle. However, that's probably where the bulk of the hits came in. So as this vehicle was flying southward out of the town of Krinkelt, it took about 3 3-inch rounds from an M10 GMC that hit it in the rear side. Now we do have a photograph that we'll have a look at now in a few moments of the rear of the vehicle. So it's hard to know if the rounds hit it in the rear engine deck or on the side. Either way, the side armors of Panthers are actually notoriously thin. They're very easy armor to defeat, especially if you manage to get a 90-degree side-on hit. So even the Shermans could deal with Panthers as long as they could get on the flanks of them. Head-on, the slope armor of a Panther is actually immensely hard to defeat. So now moving on to the actual tactical numbers. So I've blown up for a second photo that's more shown of the rear of the vehicle. You can see the turret number here. Now, I'm not really one of those guys who obsesses about things like that, but since we're trying to recreate this as faithfully as possible, I thought it was worthwhile just to kind of show the blown up photograph here. That to me does look like 126 rather than 123. You can kind of faintly see the curl of the 6 coming up, so I'm going to put that as 126, and that's also the aftermarket decals I have for this vehicle. This is also a good example to have a look at. Again, you can see the snap antenna there, just kind of inside the red triangle that I've used to highlight the tactical markings. Again, we can see the shores and plates are bet up. There seems to be a bit of shrapnel hits, as well as a lot of the masonry strewn over the engine deck, which we're going to have to recreate in scale. A little bit hard to see here. I'll show some better photographs of this in a moment. We can also see that the starboard, or should I say the port storage bin here has also been heavily damaged. So we're going to have to recreate that damage as well. So here's that second image, which is more showing the rear of the vehicle. We can see massive damage to the rear of the vehicle. You can see a very damaged port side. I kept getting these confused. This is the port left side of the vehicle. So all the hits came in probably from the starboard side, the right side, because we can't see anything on the left side of the vehicle damage wise. So we're going to have to kind of model the damage, and I can't find any photographs showing it from the other side. So again, the storage bin here has been heavily damaged. If we look carefully, when we look on the left exhaust, its shroud is missing. Again, we can see all those telephone cables that the tank has dragged after it, which we're going to have to recreate, as well as a lot of the masonry. We're also going to probably do a bit of burn effects as well on the engine deck, as obviously this vehicle took a few engine hits and then the fuel ignited, which Panthers were notorious for, especially when they weren't running with full fuel tanks. So a lot of petrol or gasoline fumes would build up and then the tank would ignite. There's some very harrowing stories from the actual same 12th SS, or was it 1st SS in Normandy, of their tanks getting annihilated and the crews basically all getting half burned alive getting out of these tanks as they were trying to bail out. These machines, as good as they were not the most easy thing in the world to get out alive. Now, I do believe that most of the crew got away. From the account that I read in Stephen Zaloga's Smashing Hitler's Panthers, which I'll have a link to the book, as well as a link to a talk he did on the book in the description of this video. Some of the crewmen got out, a few got caught up by 50 cal fire, which probably was very nasty, but at least a few of them did make it out of the tank alive. So again, here's some details we're going to have to be mindful of. We have all the masonry on the rear of the vehicle, so I have a few plaster molds that we're going to recreate that with. We also have to again recreate that damage on the left side stowage bin, as well as remember to damage the shroud on the right side of on the right exhaust and leave the shroud off completely on the left. If a few little smaller details then just to be mindful of as well. This is the rounded type of mantlet, so we don't have the late style chin extension on the bottom of the mantlet, again to stop shell trap rounds coming down into the vehicle's hull. Now luckily, and again a very big thank you to Mark on the Panzer research page on Facebook. He actually sent me out not only a replacement Dragon mantlet, which has the rounded version, as well as some aftermarket small type idler wheels. So thank you very much, Mark. I couldn't have done this build without your help there, so thank you so much. So now I've taken us outside to the shed, or to the workshop. Now you can also immediately tell this is a very different view to what you're used to. This is the classic bench view from many years ago. For many of you who've been following the channel for a couple of years now, this is where it all started. The reason why I'm set up here is my actual little studio space. There's a leak in the middle of it at the moment, so I can't do anything until the weather clears up. So we're just going to be going back to the old school setup just for this little introductory video, and then when we go to actually the build itself, we'll be back in the nice calming blue background. So this is our base kit. It's going to be the Tamiya Panther Type G late version. Now this is the version with the chin mantlet, meaning that the chin has got the extender. However, Mark from the Panzer research page on Facebook was very kind to send out both a replacement mantlet and some replacement small style idlers, so we'll have a look at them all. I've done a review of this kit about a year or two ago. I'll put a link in the description to that video so you can get a better idea. Very kind of standard Tamiya stuff, a lovely little kit to build. However, I've bought plenty of little extras for this kit, which we'll have a proper look at now. So moving on to some of the extras, I have also picked up Tamiya's workable Panther G type tracks. So these are actually link-to-link tracks, fully articulate and are fully workable. So these are going to be pretty nice. They're just really snapped together, so, you know, there's no flapping around with bloody track pins or anything like that. They just really snap together and they're good to go. So I picked up them. I've also picked up a photo etch set from Adrennes. So I have several photo etch sets for this. So I bought the Shorzen plates as well as the mounting brackets. So we're going to have fun bashing up these and making bits of them. So that's going to be very nice. We also have this general set that I picked up for the Panther as well. So we have our splash guard there for the rotor. We have things like tool clamps, the fenders that we're going to destroy, because if you look at the original photo 126, the fenders are in bits. And we've got more photo etch here, different grills and what have you. So two pretty comprehensive etch sets there from Adrennes that will very much give this older kit a new lease of life. For the actual markings of the vehicle, I have a set here from Star Model, or Star Decals. We're going to be using this one here, which is our 126. SS Panzer Regiment 12, Ardennes 17th December. So they have it as the 17th, and Stephen Zaloga's book has it as the 18th when this actually happened. I'll do a bit more research and we'll see actually what date it happened on. But maybe the photograph was taken on the 18th perhaps. And then I have a Aber turned aluminium barrel with brass fittings for the muzzle brake. I've never actually built anything from Aber before, so I'm going to be looking really forward to that. So we have our metal barrel, and then we have the parts that Mark from the Panzer research group sent out to me. So again, thank you so much for these, Mark. So we have our Panther G early type idlers, which are for the Tamiya kit. These are the, I think it's the 600 centimeter ones, the 60 centimeter diameter ones. So these are the small type idlers found on the early ones, which the late kit does not have. And he also very kindly sent out a Dragon Panther G mantlet. So we might do a little bit of mod work to get that to fit onto the Tamiya kit. It shouldn't be a big job at all. And he's also very kindly marked which
fission port has to be filled because these are the later type Panthers that only had a single view port for the actual gun sight, but they were recycling the earlier mantlets that were still in factory stockpiles that were made for the earlier gun sights that had 2 fission ports. So we had to fill the outer one, and that's good to go. And then we get to do some nice rolled steel texture as well. So we've got some Mr. Surface as well ready for that. So these are all the extras I bought for the kit. I do have a few kits or a few figure kits in the spares to do the actual figures for this kit, but we'll do that in a later episode when we start talking about the diorama aspect. So guys, I really hope you guys join me on this build. This is going to be a lot of fun, especially a lot of photo etch for me, which is something I don't do that often, and I'm looking quite forward to it. So this should be a fun build. We're going to actually get the chance to knock out a Panther, which is actually the reason why I bought the Panther kit in the first place, because I wanted to model the striped Panther, especially something that's got a bit of a story behind it and has a little bit of provenance. And actually, just before we go, I also remember that I did buy the Tamiya's new German colours, or XF88, which is their dark yellow 2, which is meant to be the lighter Dunkelgelb colour that is more prominent in late war German vehicles, as well as XF89 dark yellow or dark green 2, and their XF90 dark brown 2. So we'll be using these colours. I'm a little bit unsure about the green and the brown to see how accurate they are for a late war Panther, but I'll do a bit more research and we'll figure out what we're going to be using. So that is everything that I have stockpiled for this build. So hopefully we'll be starting it either this side of Christmas or just after in the new year, and we'll get to do a full build video project on this, including the diorama. So guys, I really hope you join me on this one. Again, thank you so much to Mark for supplying me these parts, and also a big thank you to my patrons. And I hope you all guys are doing okay, and I hope Jenny you're doing alright too, because you're saying we're the best of health at the moment, so I really hope you're doing okay and that the holidays will be kind to you. Thank you so much, my friends. I'll catch you in the next video. I've been Shane. Bye bye.